everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are making paper that is just like homemade paper, except simpler and easier and not as messy. I love making homemade paper. I always save all of my bits and pieces, but you have to have a big area and lots of water, lots of mess. Takes a long time, and you have to have lots of room to hang up all of your papers to have them dry. This is just a little hack to create beautiful paper that almost looks the same, and so many possibilities of what you can do with it. So we're going to get right at it. I'm going to switch my camera around, come down to the other view, and let's get making some faux homemade paper. This is some of the faux homemade paper that I've made previously. And you can see, look at the texture. And I've turned this piece into a little envelope, added a little card, and it was done on a piece of paper that I printed with some old antique words and lettering. Love this one. Here's some tags I made with the same technique. I have a little tag cutter that I actually picked up at the thrift store a long time ago. I love this. I use it all the time. Cuts out beautiful tags that you can add to any of your paper projects or gifts or Christmas. So many possibilities. Here's another piece that I made. This was just a scrap piece of paper that I had, and I did this technique on the top. I love all the colors in this one. And these are so easy to make. Piece of scrapbooking paper. And I actually sprayed this with a little bit of alcohol ink afterwards to give it a little bit of color. And look at this one. This is just a piece of scrapbooking paper, again, that had some pattern underneath it. I did this technique. It's gorgeous. The first one that we're going to do is just a piece of scrapbooking paper. And you're going to need 1 ply of a napkin. So I'm just going to remove this one. We'll save this for another project, and we're just going to use this one. Now, it doesn't even matter that this, see how it has a little bit of a pattern on it? That doesn't matter with this project. This one was 3 ply, so the 3rd ply was just white. This one had a little bit of a pattern on it, but it's going to be perfect for this. So we're going to take a piece of plastic, just so we don't make a mess of our table. And I'm going to be using my homemade Mod Podge. This works perfect for this project. I have a full tutorial on how to make homemade Mod Podge. If you want to check that out, I'll put the link to that down below in the description. If you're doing graphic transfers, the homemade Mod Podge does not work for that. But if you're just decoupaging, it works perfect. So mix them up, have it off to the side to use when you're doing projects like this. I'm just putting a liberal amount over that whole piece of paper. You don't want it really dripping, but you want quite a bit on there. And cover that whole sheet. And then I think we've got it just about covered. So now comes the fun part. This is where you can get creative, and you can use all kinds of different materials. I've got some spice, I've got some flower petals and stems and flowers that we're going to incorporate. I've got a tea bag that I ripped open, and I've got some tea and a tea bag, and I've got little bits of thread. Just use your imagination. So what I'm going to use first is I'm just going to sprinkle on some of the spice, and you can use any type of spice, just different textures and different shapes. It'll all work. I've got some clover in here. Now all of these I saved from the end of last summer. I dried them out, put them in a little container to save them to craft with over the winter. And it's so nice to have them on hand, just in a nice dry area where you can keep them, and just kind of sprinkle them. There's no rhyme or reason to this project. It's just here and there, whatever you want to do. I love putting a little bit of these little threads. Just makes it look like it's homemade paper without the mess. And if you're into junk journaling or scrapbooking or mixed media, this is fantastic to do for those. Or if you want to make some really authentic, unique greeting cards or birthday cards, absolutely fantastic for that too. You can turn this into envelopes or cards or tags. Great project to do with kids too. Okay, maybe we'll put a little bit of tea on this too. And I'm even going to, maybe, let's even rip up some of these tea bags. If I can get it not stuck to my finger. And add them here and there too. Like I said, just get creative. Get into your scraps that you have in your craft room. Throw it on this paper, and you're going to be blown away by how beautiful it is. Maybe let's put a piece down here. And of course, now I got glue all over my fingers, so it's sticking everywhere. Let's put some right here. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. What we're going to do now, we're going to take that 1 ply of napkin. It doesn't have to be flat or ironed. And we're just going to lay that right on our project. Doesn't have to be perfect. And press it down. Press it right into that glue. Get everything stuck right down. And then we're going to get our Mod Podge and our brush. And I like starting from the corner. You want to make sure you get right to the corner and just brush it on quite thick because we want it to soak through that napkin. And just press it right in till it goes right through to the paper. Okay, I've got that completely covered. Now we're going to set it aside and let it dry. While we're waiting for that to dry, I wanted to tell you guys about a new fun program that I have. It's run through Patreon and it's a graphic club. And what it is you sign up on my Patreon and then you will get every new graphic that I list in my Etsy store from the month that you signed up for free, delivered into your inbox. Now, how this works is you'll go to Patreon, you'll sign up at $6.99 a month. You're guaranteed to get 20 graphics. For the month of March, anybody that signed up in March, they ended up getting 30 graphics. So graphics in my Etsy store run about $2.50 a piece. And if you sign up for this program, it works out to about 35 cents a piece. But because it was more than 20, I can't do the math, but it was really cheap. It's cheaper than 35 cents a piece to craft with these graphics. So if you want to save some money and craft affordably, this is a really great program to be involved in. I'm always making all kinds of really fabulous graphics, anything from ephemera to motivational quotes to photos. You can head to my Etsy store and check out my style and see if you like it. And if you do, I would love for you to join my Patreon club. I'll put the link down below in the description for that, and you can look into that further after this video if you're interested. And here are a couple graphics that are going to go out in April. The seeds graphic that I actually turned into a little tag. I think this would be perfect for Mother's Day. Spring makes all things new again. I love the little watering can. This will be in April's delivery. And I love this. It's just a mixture of fruit. I think this would be great just to frame and put in a farmhouse kitchen. Okay, while we're waiting for that first one to dry, let's use an old label from a piece of clothing that I bought. And this graphic, I've sized it so it will fit on my tag, but I'm going to show you what we're going to do with this tag because see how it has all of the black lettering on it? Watch this hack. You want to take some packing tape. Put the packing tape along your tag. And then put another piece on, pressing it down firmly. And then I'm taking just a card and pressing it really firmly onto that tag. So whenever you're out buying stuff, keep those tags, put them in a little container, and then craft with them when you get inspired, because you'll be surprised when you start looking at tags how many beautiful ones there are on clothing. And look at, when you pull away that tape, it's taking that lettering away and leaving some blank paper that you can turn into a new tag. And these you can actually keep, and you can add them onto some of your junk journaling or mixed media. You can actually soak this in water, rub off the paper, and the text will stay on it. That's a fantastic technique to try too. But don't throw this out. So let's do the other side. And again, you can see when you're pulling that tape away, It's pulling all of that lettering away. And now you have a blank tag to work with. Okay, we don't need all the lettering off of it, but the majority of it is perfect. And we're ready to now use our graphic. So this I've printed on some coffee stained paper on my inkjet printer. And I sprayed it with some hairspray so the ink wouldn't run when we do this technique. So I did that off camera so it was all ready. And I'm just gonna cut it out. And to coffee stain this paper, I just used some instant coffee and some hot water, and I just dab it on with a sponge and then dry it with my heat gun. And it's a really quick way of doing coffee stained paper. So there we have that, and it fits our tag perfect. I'm going to use some of my homemade Mod Podge and just put it on the back and put a good amount right to the edge. And then flip it over and attach it onto the tag. There we go. It's a little bit smaller, but that's okay. We can just trim it up when we're ready. Okay, now we have the tag decoupaged on here. We're going to flip it over and we are going to put on some Mod Podge on the back. And you want a liberal coat. You want it covered up pretty good. And then we're just going to sprinkle whatever we think is going to look nice. I've got some tea. We're going to sprinkle some of that. I also have some coffee grounds that I saved from breakfast this morning. We're going to sprinkle some of that on. And what have I got for flowers in here? Let's just do a little few flower petals. You don't want anything too big or chunky. Like these are probably a bit too big. We can just break those up a little bit. And that looks good. Now we're going to get some napkin. While that Mod Podge is still wet, we're going to lay that napkin right in it, press it down, cut off the extra. We don't need all that extra napkin hanging off. Now we're going to get our Mod Podge and just paint on top of that. And that is going to give our faux paper look that I just love. And you don't have any of that fuss and muss of making homemade paper. You're doing it with just a couple easy steps. Now I've got this butterfly graphic. This is in my Etsy store. I love it. It's kind of that botanical look. And we're going to put on our Mod Podge. Now I did this on my inkjet printer. So I sprayed it with some hairspray first so my colors didn't run. And we're just gonna lay that Mod Podge on top and cover it completely. And this gives a really neat effect with that graphic underneath. Let's do a few coffee grinds. Sprinkle here and there. Do a little bit of, I think this might be oregano that I pulled out of my spice cupboard. Just use whatever you can find. Cinnamon, oregano, basil. You could even use a little bit of salt or pepper, whatever can give you a little bit of texture. Sprinkle some of this tea. And let's put on a few flower petals again too. I don't want too much because I do want you to be able to see the outline of the butterflies. Oh, and we got our napkin. Let's lay our napkin right on it. Press it right in. And cut off the extra. Like that. And get rid of all of this. Now we're going to get our Mod Podge. And we're just going to paint over that napkin. Now I like to go right to the edge, right over the edge a little bit so you know that it's sealed really well. and just paint on. And as you go in one direction, it's going to push those air bubbles out too if you're finding that you're having some show up. So just press down without tearing the napkin. Of course, you want to be a little bit careful and get all of those bubbles out and seal it all up. And you can see the butterflies are starting to show through, but there's a little bit of that texture in it, and it just gives that homemade paper look that I absolutely love. This would be beautiful to be made into a tag. Now another little trick, if you want to smooth it out even more, get another piece of plastic, lay it on top, and you can use your fingers and just press really hard. Get that napkin really bonded into that other piece of paper and really pushed into all those little bits and pieces that we added, and it works great. Gets rid of all of those air bubbles. And now we can just set this aside and let it dry. And just because I'm having so much fun, we're gonna do another tag that I saved off a piece of clothing. I've got some coffee stained paper. I'm going to decoupage that paper onto the tag, putting quite a bit on, coating it really well. And what's going to be nice about this tag is I'll leave this side blank, and then you can write on it as a gift tag. And I want to make sure I have all this texture of the coffee paint or coffee paper in the middle of that. So we're going to press it down and then let it dry, and we'll cut around the edges. We got it all trimmed up, and we're going to put some Mod Podge on top of it now. And sprinkle in, I think I'm going to put some thread in this one. I really like the look of that. And this thread's just all different colors, so it gives it a really unique look. The only thing is, when you have glue on your fingers, they stick. So you got to kind of pull them apart and space them out. And then I think what I'm going to do, I'll put lots of these little bits of thread on here. You could do little tiny feathers, so many possibilities of different things that you can, you just don't want something that's going to be really lumpy and bumpy. You want it to be able to blend in a little bit. And I'd love to know down in the comments, let me know where you're watching from. It is so fun to see people from all over the world that are joining me here and crafting together. I just love that, and it's so much fun. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. What are we thinking? Tea? I think I want this. I think I want the tea. I think I want a little speck. Not a lot, just a little bit. There, and we'll get some napkin. Is that going to fit on there? Yep. So we're just going to lay that napkin on top of that, press it down, and then we're going to get that plastic sleeve and lay it on there and put our Mod Podge on. And I think it looks so neat when you're putting that Mod Podge on and all that texture shows up through that napkin, giving it that homemade paper look. That looks great. Okay. We're going to set this aside and let it dry, and when I come back, I'm going to show you all my projects finished. And here are all three all finished. This was the first paper that I turned it into an envelope, and then I turned the butterfly paper, I put a piece of computer paper on the back, and I made it into a little card that's going to fit right in that envelope. And we have a beautiful custom-made card and envelope that would be perfect to give as a gift. And just doing that technique just looks so cool. This is the tag from the clothing tag, the textured paper on the back. Now you can see the envelope on this one kind of left that white glazing look, but I like that. And then I added my graphic on the other side. Perfect to add to a gift or just to add to some home decor. And then another clothing tag. I love the little bits of string and thread in that, and then I put some coffee stain paper on the other side too, added some ribbon. So if you haven't tried this technique, give it a try. It is so easy, it's so fun. You can experiment, get creative, and so many ideas. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. And if you love this video, I'm sure you're going to love either of these next two. Take care.